All right, we are just about at the end of Tuesday, so I'll go ahead and give you a few chart reviews before we call it a night. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to take too much of your time. If you do find this video helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure and leave comments if you find this helpful and give me some engagement. I really appreciate it. All right, we're going to jump right in. Let's start with Tesla. All right, so Tesla is, should we say, stressing some people out? But Tesla has a very interesting position right now. It did not do very well today, in my opinion. There just wasn't the breakout, right? So I think if you were paying attention to some of the things I was saying, you simply measure your previous day high and low, right? So that's all I did. I took this candle. In fact, we're gonna take a little bit down here, and then you're gonna see. All right, so what I did was I measured previous day high and low for Tesla. Pretty easy to do. Just go in before market opens at least and I just do PDL, PDH, previous day high, go back in, PD low, previous day low, right? You measure your high and your low. If you highlight the candle, your high, your low will be right there. That's your exact prices, okay? Tesla never was able to hold above the previous day high of Monday's candle. That's clue number one. We definitely want to see a break above that candle high, this wick, to indicate potential moves to additional upside, probably getting closer to 330. But remember, I found some resistance on the 1 hour chart that was really signaling that we probably were not going to hit that right away on Tesla. And so it pulled back. The next layer that we did on Tesla was just simply adding a pre-market low and a pre-market high. So if you are following yesterday's video, you're just going to go into extended hours from TradingView, and you're just going to measure the pre-day high and low of the candles for Tesla. Um, I'm sorry, the previous day high and previous day low. I'm still saying it wrong. Yeah, it's been a long day. Your pre-market high and low for Tesla. And so with that, you can see here, this is my range. You can make a box. So if you didn't have the indicator, this is what it's looking like. Just a little teaching lesson right here. You're just going in to TradingView and you're just gonna make yourself a box, okay? You can do the same thing with open range when you're doing ORB. And you're just looking for the high and the low zone of Tesla for pre-market, okay? Now, let's try to get that in there. That's it. You make it as exact or close to exact as possible. But again, you're just measuring the high and the low. So this is the high candle right there, that wick. You want to grab that. Cool. And then you just extend it out. So you're just going to kind of play with it to get it adjusted and extend it out. And now you have your pre-market range that you can take to regular hours and follow. Okay. And so if you're following Tesla, you just set an alert. Like you, again, a lot of people work, so you don't need to just be staring at charts. You need to kind of just get in there, prep, and you wait for signals. That way you're not staring and getting anxious and just wanting to click something, okay? What happened with Tesla is that once we get to our regular hours, there was no breakout of this pre-market range until we got this drop here at about 9:40. So, if you're eager, you're going to try to jump into calls, you're excited. However, that did not hold. That little bit of space looks like a gap up, right? That did not hold. And so we came back, closed the gap right about here from our opening gap. We never broke the opening candle high, even if you were doing 5 minute ORB. I personally like the 15-minute ORB for Tesla. It's just, it gives a better positioning and some security to the trade. And then you just look at it from there and you can see that we rejected at this previous pre-market high, never got above previous day high, and we pulled back. Once we get into the pre-market low, you're looking for that break. That happened. And from there, we just kind of chopped right at the previous day low until we got the final break. In Discord, the signal was, I think I told you guys 312.64, so that's what I'm keeping in my chart. Look for that break to happen. It happened at the end of the day, so all you got right here was a bunch of premium berm up and down, very much confusing. I tried to talk a few people off the edge of grabbing calls. I just was not convinced that we were done with the down move. As we look at post market, we're already at 308.06. You can 86 right here. So I still have a level here, 305. And so I'm just going to have myself an alert set around there. That way, price gets there, then I'll just be paying attention. But I'm just going to do the same thing for my chart again tomorrow. I'm going to go in and I'm simply going to look at previous day high and low. I'm just going to adjust that. I may even keep these levels from Thursday, because for most of the day today, it was the inside candle until that closing when we got this little break here. And now with us approaching 305, I'm going to keep that. I'm being a super bear by trying to get us to 284.58 before earnings. I really have that on my wish list ahead of Tesla's earnings, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see if we actually can get there. I'll definitely be loud about it because it just keeps seeing it as a target. It is an area before I put my wolf chart back. Let me just go ahead and show you just by looking at price action. There is demand when we get around here. So we'll have to see what we do in this area here. And definitely when we're getting around here, there's some demand. So this could drive the stock right back up. Um, when we were falling, yeah, we got some pretty nice levels ahead of their earnings that happened in April. So I'm just wondering if we're going to get that same pullback ahead of the earnings in April. So this was earnings on April 22nd, and Tesla did gap up a bit from this candle here. So we'll have to see what Tesla gives for this upcoming earnings, but I do have some lower targets. What we really want to watch is around 300 to see that Tesla, if it does pull back some more, if it's going to hold at 300. But yeah, that's the story. So you can see just how easy it was to follow previous day high and low and layer in pre-market. It wasn't the biggest move. Honestly, the best move was kind of getting into your swing for down, getting into position for it to go down, but just letting it work itself out because then you would have got the caught the whole move, which today Tesla was down a total of $6.12. Again, never breaking previous day high. So we still have to consider 322.60 a key break point if price gets there. We can see this candle here. We can see this candle here. Just a bunch of action around this same level. So it is definitely worth the watch. Look at this candle here. So always look to the left. You can kind of get clues of what price action is doing. One thing I do see in Tesla that gives me a bearish signal is that we still have this inverse arc. There was some news that a top executive may have left the company. Think that's somewhere in the events. But yeah, so a top sales executive for in the American market left the company. So that definitely started to drive the sell-off when I seen that alert come through. And now we're just kind of looking to see where the dust settles. But I still, again, do see this inverse arc, which could signal that as long as price is holding above maybe 305, maybe if it comes to test 300, we'll get a nice reversal. So I wouldn't get super bearish, even though my wish list is at this 284.58. I'll get a go ahead and cover QQQ. All right, so QQQ was a good story. We opened this candle at 560. Let's see. We opened today's candle at 560, and that was after closing last Monday's candle at 556.21. So we had a gap up. Um, and so opening at 560, we broke the high of the candle on Wednesday, July 9th as well, which was 557, which was our all-time high, 557.63. And I mean, we gapped up. We had some good news on Nvidia that had the semiconductor market going crazy after hours yesterday, and Nvidia was up a lot. So did QQQ at opening. But you take the same strategy, same approach, right? You measure your previous day high and low. You can see already I have my pre-market high. I didn't even really bother with pre-market low. But when I seen rejections at pre-market high, because you're getting this alert. You never should have taken calls at opening because a few things here. We never broke the pre-market high. We never broke the 5 minute opening candle. And all we did was a bunch of sideways trading with a final conclusion where we gapped down right here at the closing. So more of the move, honestly, after the rejection at pre-market high was towards the end of the day. Currently, we're post-market. You can still see the price at 555.41. I think that ultimately we want to keep holding support above 550, 551, 50, 550, somewhere around there. We definitely want to also hold support around 549. If not, maybe we'll come and visit this order block down here. I am going to keep it in a small time frame for QQQ, but again, should not have been interested in calls at opening. The move had already happened, so anyone that may be closed, leaving runners from this move or actually taking positions for calls after before we closed on Monday, those are the winners. But jumping in calls, again, you can see how that was not validated. We get a nice wick off a pre-market high, chop, 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 drop. So no move there. You're going to just do the same thing. I advise you, again, it works out really well to just know pre-market high and low as well as previous day high and low. And then you just kind of look to see in multiple time frames what the stock is doing. Look at your EMAs. Your larger time frames are definitely a clue. So looking at the 4 hour, we have just about pulled back to the 12. We haven't hit it yet. So I still think there's a chance somewhere right here. We're pretty close to it after hours that we touch this. Yeah, by the time we're opening, we'll actually be on the 12 EMA. And lowest scenario, you want to hold above 551.63. Anything under that, I think you have to get to this 549 area. And I was trying to see if we have, let's see. All right, so we'll just look at something where we're just looking at price action again. So I'm going to hide this for just a moment. All right, so when you take this away, you can see one other thing that we're looking at, and that's a gap right here to fill. So we need to see what happens if we can get QQQ down to fill this gap right here, if it's going to happen. That's the nearest gap that I see. Although we've left quite a few gaps open on QQQ from all of the moves up that have not been challenged. Okay, so we still have a lower level. And it is there. I mean, there's always a chance that price can come back to fill this gap as well right here. We just don't know if that's going to happen. Nevertheless, we just can be aware that there is a gap fill right here all the way down around 502. I mean, well, it would be looking here too. So somewhere around 540, 492. So you can play around with your charts and you can see that we've left a few gaps open on the charts from some of these recent moves that we need to go back at some point and potentially close. Not saying it's going to happen. I mean, it may not happen at all in this quarter of the year. But you can always be aware of it so that way you know that if we start to pull back, where are some areas that we can come and try to close the gap. So I know a few traders, especially in the gas station, uh, like to fill the gaps in some of their trades, and it has worked out well. So just be mindful that even when we gap up in the morning time, sometimes you have to go look and see where is there a gap that we have to come back and fill after opening up, right? So if you kind of zoom in, and again, we're just looking at candles, you can spot the gap. You can go in and find your gap. So it would have been right here. We had to come close this gap from the morning. And so we did. Excuse my handling of this. I don't know why it's being weird to me today. But anyway, yeah, there was a gap to fill. We came back down after this gap up and we closed that loop right here. Same thing on higher time frames. At some point, price can come back and visit that exact area. You just kind of look out for it. So the story on QQQ, game plan, just measure your previous day high and low, measure your pre-market. You can layer in ORB. You guys know I'm off the wolf chart with it. That's my go-to. So I'm just going to have my wolf chart and be following my arc, my WTMA from the 5 minute. But I also always keep in mind those same things, right? We have gaps to fill if we just get super bearish. But as you can see, there's a lot of demand. So it would take some serious news catalysts. I mean, maybe PPI come tomorrow coming out unexpected and it drives the market into a spook. We know that Trump said something about tariffs, and then there we go again with a drop. So there's a lot of demand again up until we lose like around 551. Then you can see there's more of a cleaner swing down once we get here. I'll put exact levels pre-market on QQQ and Discord. You can check that out. What was another one that we talked about today? Oh, let's look at our bonus. At the end of my last video, I told you guys about QS. And so QS on Tuesdays actually opened with a gap up. And we were able to hit all the way up to $11, $11.14 to be exact. Easy trade off the smaller time frame. Um, we still closed above pre-market high. I think this place still has some potential to continue to gap up. I think ultimately the target is going to be around this 1234 area, maybe a little bit of a squeeze into that order block. And as you can see, this is a nice breakout, but we do need to hold above 1050. That is happening. I probably would have brought that down a little bit more as far as where we needed to hold to this candle right here. I think that's what we discussed on the video last night, is that we were going to base it off of this candle. So based on this candle 1003, it broke that, right? It opened actually above 1003 if I'm not mistaken. And it was on high alert. So if you go back down to the 5 minute, and you could have applied the same strategy where you go into your extended hours and look at pre-market high and low for this one. It just was pretty much a very nice, strong opening. A sideways trading after it hit this peak. So your move was, if you were following this stock at open, which was a pretty inexpensive trade, could have went in with shares if you don't like to do options. And at the point that we broke pre-market high and started to validate with some momentum, we were able to get that squeeze to 1114. Again, I don't think the move is completely over, so that can still be one to watch, for you and see if you can find more opportunities for that gap up where we're targeting somewhere in the 1240 area, 1240, 1250, 1260. Definitely watch as price gets close to here. So there's still opportunity. They have earnings again on July 25th. Oh, said that wrong. July 23rd. I have someone that is in a SoFi position. So we need to look and see what SoFi is doing because it did pull back. That is after rejecting a few times in this area right here. So let's see. Is the story in SoFi over? I don't think so. SoFi has earnings on July 29th. I can't say that it is over. I just think this is a nice pullback and potential opportunity to get in. Definitely want to watch to see what happens if price comes down to 2042. Um, there is a gap right here also that you can look at and see if price comes back down around 1966. But even so, I just feel like SoFi is still a pretty solid trade. This is a 4 hour gap. Actually, I'm on the 4 hour time frame, but looking at it on the 4 hour, it's pulling back to my 12 EMA. I think we should just look to see if price can hold over $20 and is kind of allowing you a chance to get in if you're not already in. So yeah, that gap right here could be one target. This break right here at 1892 could be another lower target. I don't want to get overly bearish on this stock. What I'm saying is right now, the real break is going to be from 2186. and you can measure your previous day high and low still, but I think this candle needs to be the point that we break above and then start to hold over. If we squeeze this in just a little bit from a larger time frame, maybe we can see, because I believe we pulled this from looking to the left. Yep, this candle right here, 2180. That's the break. So if you can get in the pullback and ride it back up, you still want to be watching for that break of 2180. Look at this candle right here. Look at this candle right here. Look at this candle right here. And then we got to go all the way back to present time and look at this candle right here. All right, so if we're following price action, there's still a need for us to start getting above 2180 and holding. That's when we can start to see that opportunity to gap up to where did I think we were going? I think I found some areas where, yeah, sellers are positioned around 20. I just want to see if this ever been challenged recently. Yeah, so this order block is on my wolf chart all the way back from 2021 with a low of 2276. So if we break above 2180, that's what you're looking at. You're looking for that target to 2276. Gonna label that on a chart. So for all my SoFi traders, that's your targets. That's something to consider. 2276. Always set an alert. We don't stare at the charts. We just map our plan out. You always want to have a plan up or down. So the downside to SoFi is when we really start losing 20s. You can trade that off a smaller time frame because again, we're just getting a pretty healthy pullback so far. But I don't know. I don't really see any need to worry too much about SoFi unless, yeah, we can come close this gap. There's demand sitting for sure around 1780, 1770. You can look for that as well. Amazon, I know that Amazon has just been playing around. I feel like all of the wolf chart traders, we're really hot on Amazon waiting because we know that there is a nice clean break that can still happen on Amazon ahead of their earnings on July 31st. But all we're getting so far are wicks. And so that's when you have to really be careful with your trade and see where they're trying to drive Amazon to. I'm still very confident that as long as we stay above 24.30, above $24, maybe even at this price right here, at this candle, we got a breakup structure that would be 2380 is another lower level. If we get those pullbacks, I still think we have a nice opportunity with Amazon. That's why we just need to look at it a little bit deeper, look to the left and see. Again, we have not, while everything else has been breaking out, Amazon's kind of been held back. So my orange lines are some of what I've been mapping out as potential targets for Amazon. But we're here right now. I'm gonna keep that 2260. Sorry. I'm gonna take this off. I don't think I need this anymore. This is for a contract. I'm going to keep the 2430 because that was a pretty significant break when we finally were able to get out of that. And you can see the move from breaking above that 30-minute order block we cleared. So I'm gonna keep these levels. Think we're good above 225.83. I think we're good above 224.30. All good pullbacks if it happens. And then I can add on my chart 223.82 as another level of support to see what happens if we get there. Set our alerts, let it happen. Otherwise, what I'm looking for is, again, just you can measure previous day high and low. As you can see from these wicks, price has not been able to hold above Friday's high or Monday's high. I didn't like that. So at this point, you just, I closed it. Snatch the profit you can get out of it and just wait for the next move. There's still a clean money opportunity if it does start to break above these levels, especially closing higher than Friday and Monday's candle. Then you'll get your 228.84, 230, 296 potential moves. I think maybe once we get PPI out the way, if the market is really bullish on Amazon, they will show their hand. Apple, I've seen quite a few people asking about Apple, and just look at that wick on Apple. So we did break previous day high, and hopefully for the people that were down, I know a few, some at least one person told me they were able to get out safely or recover their losses on Apple after that pullback that happened on Monday after the high of 210.91. So we closed at 208.62 from 210.91. All right. So then today we got a high of 211.89 and we then closed at 209.11. Apple, poor baby. Poor baby. But do I think the story is over on Apple? We'll have to see because I don't like that we're getting this arc forming with the crossover. And we're here again. We just been needing Apple to close above 214.60. Now, I do like the play above 290. I do like that. Um, I said 290. I'm sorry, 209. I'm like, did we get to 290? I do like us holding above 290, or 207.39 if we get more pullback. I don't want to see Apple get any lower than that. Maybe to this break of structure around 206.23. Just play it safe with Apple. We hit a very significant resistance area on July 7th, and we just struggled from there. So this week was frustrating. I mean, if you're an Apple trader, you just want to see the stock finally break out because we can see where we've been just in December of last year. So hopefully Apple gives us some good news. We really need to hear that story of the AI move that Apple's going to make because as most pros, as most investors are speaking, it truly is that Apple is behind on the AI story. So even when we got the pop, it was based on a little bit of noise about AI potentially looking outside, Apple looking outside of its own company to look for partnership on AI. So there's more reading to do. Try to stay ahead of the whispers on Apple to see if you get any clues that something is about to happen. I personally still like Apple at this 12 EMA and hopefully starting to retrace back up. Look for that next level to be us breaking above 210.91 and actually holding this time. That's this candle here. And then we need to retrace. We got to 212, close to 212, and we just rejected hard. That's the story in Apple. What is another stock that oh, Google. Let's look at Google. All right. I may have, man, it's a blur, but I think I covered Google last night. And the thing with Google is truly the break above 181.11. We got that today. Google hit 184.22, so that was a nice move for Google. Unfortunately, if you weren't planning to take profit and get out of that trade, then hopefully you didn't have any short-term contracts because it didn't sold once it got to 184.22. It doesn't mean that I believe the move is over. Again, I think there could just be some precaution to what Trump had stated yet again on tariffs. I think with PPI and unemployment data ahead Wednesday and Thursday, there's still just maybe a little bit of hesitation in the market until we get clear past that. Now, what we need to see next after we've broken above 181.10 is the break above 183.67. 184.22. And I don't know, this looks like a really nice open space for Google. We're getting a 2-week inverse arc, prices above that and the 12. And let's just see what the monthly looks like. I just think that don't miss out on Google. I think same story with Apple. Like there's still a chance that these stocks can break out. Same story with Amazon. There's still a chance that they can break out. Maybe get Google around 190. Like maybe we can get that pop at least to get above, get through 188 and then get to that 191 and maybe even get to like 195. there's still time for Google to catch up. It's just a slow mover, and you definitely don't want to just be in a week or two contract. I feel like you should go further out on Google. All-time high is 207.05. They have earnings on July 29th. So I just would watch that one staying above 181.10. And then from there, just look to see if we start breaking the highs of the previous day candles, and we'll get that next leg up. I don't think the story on Google is over. I just think we just have a bit of profit taken in the market ahead of, I don't know what to expect with PPI, but again, I always just say be mindful of it. We have some equal lows around 187, so that might be a nice target, somewhere around 187, 188. But you can see the clean move, the clear path could lead us all the way up to this 203 area. So 202, 203 would be a nice move on Google. If you're not trying to be holding options and dealing with the up and down, you're not going a few months out, then you can position yourself in some Google shares. RGTI has earnings coming up, and we did not do too much of anything just yet on this one. And so I'm still having to watch and be patient. I really wanted it to hold above 1290. It didn't. It didn't break pre-market high, so it did not validate my thoughts on. Let's go down. Actually, let me make sure I'm seeing pre-high correctly. But I don't think this one is just over with yet. I don't. So I say still keep Regadian and watch. It has paid the group a few times before, so it can do the same thing. And so it actually kind of chopped around in pre-market low. But as you can see why it worked to follow pre-market high, it just had this wick right here after being up a bit in pre-market with the rest of the market. As soon as it opened, where I was like, oh, if it can hold above, I think I was at that point 1290, we're getting a nice break. We got 1302, but never a candle holding above the pre-market high, so there was never a clear indication to get in. Remember, you don't chase a trade with hope that it will do it. It has to confirm the move. So it's okay if your trade plan does not work out to what you thought it would be. At least you had a trade plan and at least you stuck to it. That's the key point. I never get upset if my trade plan doesn't work out. I'm just proud of myself if I didn't chase. So nothing here. All I did was set some alerts and I can see that nothing was happening there. I'm not gonna, well, yeah, I'm not gonna cover NVIDIA. Going to do one more, and that is going to be TTD, because I still like TTD. And honestly, I got to give shout out to Stocks with Josh on this one because he has been yelling about TTD. And if you just weren't following it, or if you just don't follow his technical analysis and his call outs, we got a nice pop on TTD today. And I think with a good pullback, there is still a lot of opportunities to get into this one. So for one, we finally broke above this significant resistance line around $77. And so we even broke to where we were at 80.50, and now post market we're at 80.70. We're actually at the 200, and we're getting a nice arc with the 12 prices above the 12 EMA and attempting to hold and reclaim the 200 weighted moving average. All right, as you can see, there was a terrible gap down on TTD from earnings in February. So they had earnings, they missed on revenue, as you can see. And so the move after being up all the way at 122, they gapped down all the way to the 80s, right? So now what we're looking for is, and so here's the last earnings. This time they missed earnings, but did have a pass on revenue. And they gapped up. So this is why you can't really predict. There was a miss in earnings, but still a nice report on revenue and probably some decent guidance. It gave it a gap up from $61 to $75. And now we are getting out of this range that we've been in. between $80 and let's see, $65. Okay. And so the next near target is going to be the 90s. I think maybe 92, 97. And then we just have a clean gap as we begin to reclaim this 200 weighted moving average. It's really going to get busy too when we get this cloud crossing over each other. When we have the 12 crossing through the 200 over it, that's just going to be another clean signal. But what we do have is from a level three confirmation on the wolf chart, we're finally getting the breakout. So I do like that. Actually, I'm going to look at the 3 day, and we're getting an inverse arc on the 3 day at a fair value gap and just a lot of demand here. All good signals for PTD. So I just wanted to alert you guys if you're not following Stocks with Josh on this one. I wanted to bring it to my channel because I just think that he is on the money with the potential moves here. They have earnings on August 7th, so there's just a lot of time for them to continue to catch momentum. They also were added to the S&P, so allowing a good pullback and then finding a nice entry to hold maybe with some August contracts, maybe a little bit further out, grabbing shares here on a good pullback, all will allow for a profitable trade. I just think this one is waking up and it's about time. They've been down. Do your research on the company. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, maybe I didn't cover a stock that you were hoping I can cover, just let me know in the comments and I could respond back with some of my thoughts. Reach out to me in Discord tonight. I'll be on for a little bit. And if not, I just hope that everyone has a blessed trading day on tomorrow, and I'll see you guys after we get the PPI report. Thanks. Bye.